What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to be going over this Zerobreeze portable air conditioner. Now I've had this for months now and I've been using it for months now, and I wanted to make sure I actually tested it out in the real world. So you can see it's covered in dust and dirt. It's got a bunch of scratches on it from bouncing around in the bed of my truck, in the back seat of my truck. I've actually been testing this thing to make sure that it's worth the money that it is, because it is pretty darn expensive. Now this particular setup right here, everything that I have right here, including the battery, is $1,499. So $1,500 gets you everything on this table, everything here. The unit itself is 16.5 pounds, the battery is 12 pounds, and the unit actually produces 2,300 BTU. So considering its size, I mean, it's not bad. Like your portable air conditioning that's in your window or something is more than double this, but it's also not really that portable, heavier, and I mean it's built for a different purpose. But what I'm trying to say is this doesn't put out an absolute ton amount of BTUs, so I'm not expecting a ton of cooling power in certain environments, which we'll see when we come down to our testing here in a little bit. This is where our cold air output goes out. It has a little thermostat that gives you a reading of what the air temperature coming out is. We got our switch panel, which I really like the way these switches, it's kind of a touch screen type setup, and it doesn't have buttons. In my particular scenario, everything's dusty. It's covered in dust. You can see this stuff back here is covered in dirt and mud. This is covered in dust just from like 2 weekends of use. If you had like an actual push button, all that dust would get down in there and gum up the contacts, and then eventually it would stop working. These hoses right here, this is our exhaust hoses, and that snaps into the back down here. And it does come with this, it's part of the packaging actually. You can punch the centers out here, and then these exhaust hoses, you can set this up in an RV window or a car, truck window, whatever, window in your house, I don't know, and stick the exhaust hoses through it to pipe them out of the vehicle, your house, RV, whatever you want. We have our power supply, just standard stuff, but the thing here, this has a weird 4-pin connector that screws in. I'll go into detail about this a little bit later, but I really do not like this. And that can plug it directly into the battery to charge the battery, or directly into the unit itself to run it on AC power. Plug it in your house, plug it into your power station, as long as you have an inverter, and run it off of that. This battery is 850 watt hours, and this guy just snaps into this. You slide it, snap it in just like that, push the button and unsnap it, and then you connect the two with this little tiny 4-pin power cable that threads in to both sides. So you have this tail sticking out of the back of this, which I really hate, and I have this extra cable here that I'm for sure gonna lose. It should just use like a power tool, like, let's see, this guy right here. You know, like the bottom of this battery right here has this, should just be able to slide on and connect. It works. This sits in my garage, gets greasy, dirty, nasty, and it always works. So I don't see how this would be a problem to just integrate that into the battery and into the bottom of this unit right here. And that way I don't have to carry around that extra cable. You can stack multiple batteries on top of each other and buy like a $130 adapter that you can attach 2 batteries to one, and then you have to buy another adapter if you want to attach a solar panel to this 4-pin connector that plugs into the battery, that could charge the battery. Why not use something that's universal that everybody kind of uses? But my solar panel comes with a kit that has a ton of different connectors in it for charging. Use any one of those that would work with this, so that I don't have to buy a bunch of different cables, a bunch of different adapters to run all kinds of different things. To screw it in, to actually attach it, I can barely stick my fingers in there to get it, and then it cross threads, and then I can only like do it with one finger. It's just a really big pain in the butt. The other thing that comes with is we got our drain. So just like any AC unit, there's gonna be a drain. You're gonna build up condensation inside the unit. It's gotta drain out somewhere. So this hose drains it. And we got our snuffleupagus hose for the front that threads into this front piece right there. That works pretty good. Again, I'll show you all that out in the tent and on my truck and everything here in a few minutes. So that's everything that you're gonna get for the $1,500. Actually, I forgot, it comes with a remote, but I don't know where it is. I'm gonna be back in a second. Well, I can't seem to find the remote, which kind of comes to one of my issues with the remote. One, it's an infrared only, so line of sight, it is completely useless to me. There is an infrared remote extender, so you basically plug it into the USB on the front of this battery, and it just extends the infrared. You could run it in through where you have your hose through into the tent, and it would work that way in theory, but that's just another accessory to buy. So that's my issue with the remote. That's my first issue with the remote. And number two, it would have to have some sort of magnet or something built into it so you can set it up right. There's a nice flat spot right here. If you just put a magnet in there and a magnet in the remote itself, it would stick to this and you wouldn't lose it. So a magnet would help out in not losing it. Not being infrared, like maybe having Bluetooth, like an app so you can control it with your phone. That would probably be the best solution for something being $1,000, not even with the battery. The fact that it has an infrared only, such a cheap controller and remote is kind of disappointing. Like, I understand that developing an app and all that stuff is very expensive, but that would be really cool if this thing had a thermostat and an app. I could set it up in my tent and, you know, plug in the thermostat and have it inside the tent somewhere, have this plumbed into it, go to my phone at the campfire and just go turn it on, set my tent to whatever it is, 70 degrees, whatever's comfortable in that scenario, 70 degrees, and that's it. It turns on, it runs till it goes to 70 and it shuts off, and it can turn on and off according to the thermostat. Obviously, you should know how a thermostat works, but that would be one of the things that for the cost that, in my opinion, should be there. So I set up my family's 10-person tent in the backyard, zipped everything up, everything is closed off, and this is kind of a real world worst case scenario where you're camping and there's literally no shade. This thing has been in the sun for hours. Wanted to make sure it gets nice and hot in there. I left all of the vents closed. The temperature is 94.3 inside the tent and 79.9 inside, 25% humidity inside the tent, 39% outside. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna run this, set up a time lapse so we know exactly as the temperature goes down, we see it. I ended up needing this camera for filming something else, so I had to stop the time lapse. But after 1 hour, it dropped the temperature 18 degrees down to 76, which was actually pretty impressive for how big this tent really is. After the battery died, I busted out one of my power stations. This is a 700 watt, 606 watt hour power station. We also have to consider the loss that we were taking using this AC converter. On turbo mode, we used about 163 watts on full blast. And then when we go down to medium mode, we're about 149, 150 watts of power that we're using. And we turn it all the way down to its lowest setting on sleep mode. We end up using about 100 watts of power, just to give us the longest life out of this battery. You can see about 2 hours and 33 minutes. You could expect 2.5 hours of life out of something like this on lower modes. After finishing up my initial testing at home, it was time to head out and hit the trail. Me and some friends went over to Eastern Washington to do some four-wheeling and camping at Natchez. I ended up setting up the Zerobreeze on the roof of the truck and ran the hose into the side window of the rooftop tent. Now this thing really made quick and easy work of cooling off this small rooftop tent in the shade of the trees. And again, the remote is completely useless inside of this tent. Also, the zippers do not go well with the round holes, leaving gaps in it, let mosquitoes and bugs and a little bit of hot air back into the tent. I also have been finding other uses for this thing since it's sitting around at my house. The AC in this truck is not currently working. I ended up just plumbing the hose straight to my back just to try and keep the sweat off of my back, and it worked okay. Also, around the house, we had a garage sale, and the wife and my sister enjoyed having the cool air being blown on their neck or their feet. I was redoing a bathroom, and I plumbed the hose into there just to get a little bit of cool air breeze in there, and it actually worked pretty good. One last thing I wanted to test is, can you use this as a heater? So we got 47 degrees coming out, cold air. This thing's been running on for about 10 minutes. And our exhaust hose here, so this is sucking in air right here, and this is blowing out our exhaust, our cold air. So we have 92.8 degrees, 95 degrees. So we have 95-degree air coming out of our exhaust. So yes, absolutely, it does seem like this could heat a tent. Let's go over the performance of the battery real quick. This thing running on full blast turbo mode, the battery lasted 5 hours and 10 minutes. On medium, just regular cooling mode, it lasted 6 hours, and then on its lowest setting, on sleep mode, it lasted 7 hours. Now I do have to mention that this does have some USB plugins, USB-C, 2 USBs, and a regular 12-volt plug-in, so you can charge other devices using this battery as well. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, is charging this from basically fully discharged, at least discharged enough that it won't run this machine anymore. It took an average of 8 hours to recharge this battery, which in my opinion is a very long time. If you're running only one of these batteries, then you're basically out for 8 hours with this machine if you're out and don't have any other power source. So for me, for this to make sense for me, I would need 2 batteries. I need the power extension cable that it allows you to attach and charge 2 batteries and run this, which is $129. The infrared remote extender, so I can actually use my remote when I want to. The solar panel cable adapter, which is $24.95, and that brings the total of this to $2,112.85. For this to make sense for me, I already have a solar panel that I could use to charge this, but I don't have the adapter. So in order to keep this working in a whole family weekend vacation trip, it's going to cost over $2,000. So in my opinion, that is way too much money. This battery takes way too long to recharge, and it just doesn't make sense for me personally in what I do. Another thing I do need to mention that I thought was interesting, in the cleaning and maintenance section of the manual, it says to take these air filters off and clean them. So there's no air filter, it's just a piece of plastic with holes in it. So if you look inside here, there's no filter. Just like a home AC unit, like the little $150, $200 window AC unit, they at least have like a little slide-in fiber filter. Although it's cheap, it does have a little filter. And on the back here, there's no filter. You can see straight in. I can see the wheel, the blower wheel. I can see inside of here. There's no filter back here. There's no filter up front. It would kind of be nice to have at least one filter so that the air coming out doesn't have all that dust and dirt that it's sucking in from outside, blowing it back into your tent. So that's another thing that I noticed when I was going through the manual. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video, guys. If you want to follow me on social media, I am at MuddyBeards4x4. Got a website, shirts, stickers, muddybeards4x4.com. We got discount codes from some of our sponsors like Barnes 4-Wheel Drive. On that website, give you discounts like 10% on your purchase. All those links will be in there. I will also leave a link in the description for this Zerobreeze if you guys are interested in this, in doing some research and checking it out for yourself. I'll leave that down in the description as well. Until next time, guys, we will see you out on the trail.